Hello.
Hey,
Okay, so
Jackie.
I'm going live here with my friend Palace, who triple dog dared me to go live with her.
Because I know you're so freaking amazing and you're all
Oh
that
no,
in a bag of chips.
she's so sweet. She's so sweet. And so here we are. She's in Denver and I'm in Philly.
That is accurate. And so, what are you calling your episodes here?
I would say Philly tea time would be
Yeah.
good.
And
Yeah,
what's behind that?
coffee. Yeah.
What's behind Philly tea time? Besides that amazing mug you have in your hand there.
Oh, yes. Thank you. So this this is a beautiful mug by my classmate in high school. And I guess I'll put something down below later on to give her a shout out because my son is 4 and he is starting to read. So all these mugs have to get out of the house.
Right? We might not want that to be where we're taking your
Yeah.
4-year-old first. We'll give him a year or two to migrate to that level of amazingness, adult
Yes,
amazingness.
that starts with an F. Let's not. No.
Right? Exactly.
Good job, Bodie.
So today's conversation is about beginnings.
Yeah.
And I believe you had some pretty interesting kind of thoughts about where you wanted to go about beginnings. And I can read what you had shared with me. So you said, when you think about beginnings, does your brain immediately go binary like my ego mind did? Good beginnings versus bad beginnings. And then there's the part of us beyond our ego that knows better and can see the bigger picture, that everything is and was as it should be, that we have to travel the path we chose to expand and widen our perspective in the long run. And that includes making mistakes along the way. As a bold and ambitious woman, I often have to negotiate what I want to do with my life with what is best for my family. And as a single mama of 3, it can be a bit of a challenge. So today I want to show up unscripted, authentically chat a bit about that for a couple of minutes and share a quick protocol with you to neutralize some of those feelings. I think there's so much behind this. So I guess this is a great place to start. And maybe what is your driving factor behind all of this? Like showing up unscripted and the things that you've noted. What comes up for you around what you
First thing
shared?
that comes up, right, is when you said, let's do a live. And I'm like, why are we fucking doing a live? And you said, well, you show up authentically. And I'm like, maybe let's not script this, but I have some kind of an idea. So when we talked about, let's talk about beginnings, there are many things that came to mind, like what I wrote. The good stuff, the bad stuff, kindergarten, and then my son starting kindergarten. And then it all ran to like, oh my God, I used to be the young mom for my teenagers. And now I'm going to be the oldest mom. Like, probably when Bodhi graduates, I'll be like 60 at graduation and thinking about all that. And then then my heart kind of sank a bit. And I'm like, ouch, what is that? And it led me to thinking, well, I'm in my personality when there's something I just want to go for it. There's very little that I hold. Like I'm not the kind that would be like, I'm gonna let other people do it and see what happens. I'm the one that kind of I would stick my neck out without knowing that I'm doing that because I'm so curious and I just want to know, does this work? Does this not work? It sounds great. And so oftentimes I would find myself in this position of leadership without wanting that. But I also find, so that's the good part, but the other tricky part is there are many times I've done the things and I don't feel like I have consulted with my tribe enough. Now, whether that be my tribe at home at 8th grade when I decided, hey, you know what, mom and dad, I applied to 4 boarding schools. I got in 3. When am I leaving? I didn't ask them. I just said, when am I leaving? And then I got married, and I called my mom. I met my first husband. I was like, you know what? I'm getting engaged. Didn't ask for blessings. Like, that's like traditionally not so good, right? My parents are from Hong Kong. So traditionally, you would like, he would call them and say, I really like your daughter. We've been dating for so long. I'd like to ask for your blessings, ask for her hand. We still do it that way. And definitely back in 1999, that was the way. But I just called and said, Mom, Dad, I met this great guy and we're going to get married. And my parents kind of like, okay. So and then I met my second husband, and we uprooted the kids so that we can come to Philly to open 2 restaurants. And that means them changing school or having different high schools that they were going to go to, and everybody's plans changed. And so there are a lot of misgivings. Like, when I think of beginnings, my heart just sank, because I feel like, wow, it's great that you're so bold. But, I do regret not having consulted my tribe more, even though I'm not sure if I would have listened to them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But just the gesture of it, of including them. So my heart sank, and I said, you know what, we're going to talk about this, because I'm sure a lot of people that feel like, they're so driven, having a driven personality, might come across these kind of obstacles where they just can't wait for other people to say okay. They just go ahead, forge ahead, and hope other people would come along. Yeah. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So with that kind of framework in your life of really just breaking the old paradigms and of tradition, kind of is kind of what you were alluding to, right? In that direction.
It's like your network disruptors.
Yep, your network now too, right?
Our network.
Our network. It's breaking old patterns, breaking old paradigms, breaking old, expectations. Not saying whether that's a good thing or not a good thing. It just is, right? Accepting that it is. How has that propelled you in your life? How has that held you back? How has that propelled you forward to who you are now, and what your interests are, and the different things that you've brought into your life? Because you're very integrated in some really cool stuff. And to be a single mom of 3 and doing all that you're doing, that takes a really strong person with their own head on their shoulders doing the things. So it's just back to that original question. How has that type of decision-making process and ownership of yourself impacted you in your life?
I think that I feel, and have yet to see, I feel that the biggest takeaway from that is what my kids see. And that I guess I could, for lack of a better word, they have balls. They go after what they want. And if they're not sure, they come and talk to me, because they know Mom's open-minded. And there are all different sides to things. And I'm definitely not the person that would be like, this is my way and that's the only way. So they know that. So hopefully that the biggest thing that I have achieved so far is giving them that example, and also being able to juggle different modalities with movement, and now with the soul work that you and I are doing, with body talk, seeing how different things, right? I think the most important thing in being a teacher is that you are able to reach different people, and having different modalities gives me different languages, and hopefully widen my reach of people that I can help and serve. I think that's, looking back, I'm hoping that's like, I'm right about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That we are able to cast our net and reach different people through different modalities.
So you say that you're hoping that you're right. That brings up that area of grayness, of questioning. you know, your choices to get to this point. Let's explore that a little bit. Like what does that bring up for you? Why is there that hesitancy and maybe the looking back instead of being anchored into the future?
Well,
Or the present.
the things that we are learning is definitely not mainstream with doing our past life trauma work, and now doing ancestral wounds for me. I know you've already done that, but that's my path. So because it is very new, as far as not being mainstream, that's where my hesitancy is. But as far as like, this is definitely the thing that is meant for me to learn right now. There's no doubt about that. I have no doubt in my heart, because my family needed it, and I was not doing it because it looks pretty cool. It was something that I wanted to do to help my family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there I found myself.
Right.
Yep.
Definitely new beginnings in a lot of ways.
Bold beginnings.
Very bold, very different trajectory, very different community base of the individuals that both you and I are connected with, but also very profound and very, I think it's so desperately needed in everything that's going on in today's world and with the core wounds of humanity, right? There's there's so much work that I'm doing on that for myself right now, the unpacking right now, always. It's why I've healed so much from my journey back to health, as I like to say it, rather than my health journey, because my journey with Lyme disease and all the fallout and losing more than a decade of my life and all the stuff, and finally being introduced to these other modalities, you know, coming from this mainstream allopathic muggle world, as I like to say it, and then being introduced to the quantum sciences and the Chinese, the TCM, traditional Chinese medicine based on ancient Chinese practices mixed with quantum theory and all of the work behind that. And then being exposed to craniosacral therapy and body talk, and now the soul detective work with Dr. Barbara Stone and Dr. Robert Alcorn, just pulling back the levels and layers of the stuff that's been packed on, the sticky stuff, the glue, the muck, coming through the muck and the mire, like and if you guys can hear birds singing, that's my bird in the other room.
I'm like, what the heck is my daughter doing?
You know, just one of the benefits of going live.
That's awesome.
But had I not personally been exposed to these other modalities, I do not believe I would even still be here on this planet, as sick and traumatized as I was from like the physical illnesses, all the things going on, and unpacking how it came to be. And as deeply immersed as I am in these modalities and having experienced them and having my own language about it, I've started reading other people's books recently. Is it Mark Wolin? Yeah.
Mark Wolin, yeah.
Yes. I started diving into his work last night, and I read about 40 pages, and it's nothing that I'm not already aware of, but framing it in this whole other perspective is just, it's so profound to me. And like for him, the thing that today, like I had a coaching session right before this, and some of the things that came up were around this kind of thing, like where he went almost out of the gates was the Jewish Holocaust, right? And talking about the ancestral trauma, which my work that I've done, my unpacking to get to where I'm at, it came to me from multiple sources of people I wasn't even paying. They're like, you have to heal that Jewish line or the Lyme disease will likely come back. Like that's crazy. Foundational thing for how sick I was, right? And when it first started coming to me, I'm like, can y'all stop talking crazy to me? Because I don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't in that space yet. It just freaked me out.
Right. It was a seed back then.
It was. But then we're, you know, and it's so much work that I've done, but then he went there immediately. Mm-hmm. And like a couple of the things that really stood out to me was how generational trauma happens. And this is going to the modalities that we work in the new beginnings, right? Mm-hmm. And he's talking about how as you and me, we plus when our mothers were 5 months old, their eggs were already developing, and we were in our mother's mother inside of our grandmother.
Exactly. Triple egg.
Triple, right?
Yep.
That gives me shivers just thinking about that, because I didn't know that physical, biological aspect of things till last night. And when I first read that, I was like, boom. Oh my God. Like there's the esoteric side of generational trauma and things.
But here you have the science.
But we were there, right? And then all the elements around that. And then when it comes to when you went straight around the Holocaust, I'm half Ashkenazi Jew. I'm not a Jewish practicing person. I'm Hebrew. It's my blood, my lineage. And it didn't occur to me that I'm actually second generation from the Holocaust. I'm a second generation Holocaust survivor. My dad was between ages 10 and 12 when the Holocaust happened. He was here in the US, but he refused. My dad has passed now. He refused to ever talk about that part of his life. His life basically started in the 60s. During the 60s stuff, like think Austin Powers, think my dad, but with the good teeth and super attractive. Like, but he was really, really immersed in that kind of industry and that kind of scene. And seeing that now, he blocked it out. Right. And through all the work, this energy medicine work I've done, and the unpacking with the shaman, with the soul detective, with the body talk, I've learned so much about my own lineage through this kind of work.
Through this, and not through your dad.
And now through my dad, and recognizing that I'm second generational, like Holocaust survivor, like to say as a survivor, like when you're talking about it from the perspective of Mark Wolin, right? It is profoundly impactful. And as just from last night, between last night and today, the things that have been being kind of shown to me is when I go into places of sadness or depression, and these images, these oppressive feelings, these things, in the way that he's described, like how mental health disturbances show up in other people when he brings them back to that place of this ancestor's experience, and then you tune into that thing. It's like recognizing that trauma, that sadness, that coldness, that whatever isn't yours. It was theirs, and it was passed down. And just since last night, recognizing these different patterns of things that come up for me, I'm like, it goes back to that exact thing. Now, having the modalities and the people that I know, I have an idea of how to work through these things, but I cannot wait to read more of his book, to have more new beginnings, more new revelations, more new unpacking, to get to my joy and get rid of everybody else's stuff.
And the way I see it is we are all family. So if your dad decided to stuff it under the rug, that's his choice, right? But there's so much love between us that, okay, Palace carries it for him then until it's resolved. And if you don't resolve it, then your kids carry it. So when you do this work, not only are you healing yourself, you're going up the line for everybody that has not resolved that, and you're going down the line. You're giving this as a gift to your children, that they don't have to carry this because you're going to resolve it, right?
Absolutely. And I've been told and recognized by different practitioners I work with, like they've explained, there's every few generations, there's somebody that stands up and says, this isn't going to happen anymore. Like me, when I started standing up for that, I didn't know what I was saying. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I didn't want to feel like I felt any longer. I didn't know what it was anchored to. I didn't know anything, right? Until we started unpacking it. And the more that it's being revealed, the more foundationally, like, there's a history that's starting to evolve of real people, real experiences, real stuff. And then looking forward, like you say, at my kids, I'm like, I don't have a choice but to do what I'm doing.
You did not have a choice because you had that line to anchor. That line was and is still your teacher. And we all have these teachers that say, you know, you're not going to ignore this because we're going to make you pay attention if you're going to brush this under the rug again, like your dad or like, you know, my ancestors. No. You're going to deal with this now. This is going to happen in your life and you're going to resolve it because you have it in you. And you have that openness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
So I'm curious.
Beginnings.
I'm curious for you. I know that you started this work because of one of your parents being connected, deeply connected in that way, and wanting to help and resolve and heal. But in exploring that, I'm sure you've been exploring you.
I have. I actually about 3-4 days ago. I'm actually spiritually not single. So, you know, from our teacher, I realized that, and from the work that we did, the modalities, I realized that I have some unresolved marriages. So, you know, there's so much, like when I'm able to go into that space and connect with my, you know, past life and present lives, there's always a lesson to learn. It's like, okay, why was this not resolved? And what is the lesson for me today? And how is it relevant in my life? So it's not just, this is absolutely not just about, oh, this is a cool, like little tarot card reading. No, it's like you get this information, right? There's the informational level. And then how are you going to use it for transformation? And that's where it is. How do you transform yourself from knowing this information that now you have access to and get yourself unstuck, you know? And a lot of times we have things that on a conscious level we know, but it keeps repeating on the subconscious level. Like, for example, I'm talking about being authentic. I hate doing lives. I'm doing this because you want to do it and I love you as my friend. And so I'm going to go explore, what is this on a conscious level? I know I'm really not drawn to it, but what's underneath that, you know, that iceberg? What is it? And so a lot of what we do with Body Talk and with the Soul Detective is about, you know, melting the iceberg and going from, yep, we know this to be true, but we still repeat this shit all the time, to going down to like, what's the programs that drives it? So for myself, it's like looking down underneath that iceberg and trying to like chip off the layers so that I feel more. I want to see if I can find you something. It just came through from a friend. Oh man, this is how unprepared I am. Hold on. Sing something. I got it.
I don't think anybody wants to hear me sing right now.
Okay. Intentional choices allow you to create your life. Unconscious choices lead to your past being recreated in the present. Hey, I want to be the fucking driver in the seat, you know, in the car of my life. I don't want to be driven. That's the last thing. I'm not even a good passenger. So this work allows me more. I think it expands my choices. And I can, you know, not so much about control, but about creation, which is what we're going to go into next week, creativity. Mm-hmm. Being able to make some art in my life the way I want it to. Having a blank slate to draw whatever I want. And not having to be like, to feel like, oh, there's all this shit on the wall and I got to crowd into a corner because there's a little white spot there. I don't want that. I want the whole wall so I can draw and paint and make my life the way I want to paint it to be.
Yeah, exactly. You know, in the session that I was in right before this, we were, something came up just casually about Chicago and all the snow that everybody's gotten out there. And this woman I'm speaking with, she was talking about being 5'2" and walking out on the street, and these snowbanks are like way up here. And she said, with all the plowing that's gone by, you're starting to see more and more stuff packed into these snowbanks that shouldn't be there, until she went by this one snowbank, and like near the very top, there's a shopping cart. There's a shopping cart.
Yeah.
But where this went, because the session was around the body, mind, and soul cleanse, we went automatically to looking at that as what we hold inside of us, and how we may not see anything until it starts getting pushed to the side, pushed and pushed, and all of a sudden it starts surfacing, that shopping cart, that trauma, that thing that is detrimentally impacting us. It shouldn't, like, should you have a shopping cart at the top of a snowbank? Probably not. Like in the middle.
Probably knew that like 10 months ago, but did we move it? Nope. We just left it there and walked around it.
Right. And so it comes to the surface. And so that analogy ended up being this common theme throughout the entire hour, 15 minutes that we were all talking about when it comes to cleansing ourselves. It's like we can melt it all down right all at the same time. And then it's like, what do you do with all of it?
Yeah.
Or the priority of the thing that made it to the top is the first thing ready to be addressed.
That's funny because it's the iceberg that I was thinking.
Right?
About. That iceberg and then the pile of snow. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly that. I think just on that note, though, with body talk and with the soul detective work and this deep spiritual root causes, is that while it might seem scary to people, or they might be like, oh, what are they actually talking about? And then there's people like, oh, I get it. I do that. I've done that. I've been there. I'm open to it, kind of thing. It's that when you're coming from a place of trauma or not, or just holding on to the trauma, and you don't even know, you just know that you're depressed. You know that you have anxiety. You know that your life is not on the track where you want it to be because of these emotional things impacting you, right? That for me, the amount of trauma that I was carrying going through the whole Lyme disease thing, like I got a tattoo when I started coming out of it to remind me that I made it through the worst part of it. And that whenever I started falling back in my trauma, I could go and remember the 2 days that I sat for like 7 hours, first day having it done, second day going back over all of it, which is really painful. Like it was my anchor. This was my anchor into reality. Also, the phoenix is my symbol of like what I went through.
Yes.
And your Instagram, right?
Rise from the ashes. Yes.
And
it's a choice. It's a choice you made. You could have not made that choice. It was
right.
a conscious choice that you wanted to remember it by.
Exactly. Conscious choice, wanting to remember it by having the thing to anchor, which kind of body talk kind of work. But for me, kind of where I was going with that too, is that with all of the counseling and mental health work that I've done over time, for all the categorizations and classifications of the things that were wrong with me until we determined it was this other stuff, right? This energy medicine, this type of spiritual root cause, this type of defragging the body and finding the detrimental stories is the softest mental health. It's the softest therapy, the softest healing
it is
that I had ever experienced. And by not having to talk about it, by having these things come up when my nervous system was ready for it,
yes.
when my soul was ready for it, when whatever was ready for it,
right.
Being able to process these things came about naturally versus prior to that, all the talk therapy, even talking about it at the doctor's offices, trying to explain. When I would go home, I would be set off into trauma
right.
for days after that, right? And so it was the kindest, gentlest way to move through my things. I don't know.
Priority driven.
Yeah, exactly. Priority driven. So for you, I would actually, on that note, I'm curious, what would a session with you look like? How would that, because remote right now, in person, what would that be?
It's going to be remote because my kids would kill me if I let anybody in the house right now. And it would actually start with the Body Talk Spine, which is right on your wall, which is a better, where's my thing? My thing is right here. So, I mean, there's a lot going on in your body. This chart covers Western physiology, all your organs, your endocrine system, all the systems in your body. It covers the meridians, it covers the chakras, it covers active memory, stories you tell yourself, um, and go from there and see where priority takes you. And that's just what we mean by consciously driven. So we use muscle testing, which is applied kinesiology, and we muscle test your body to see where we should go in the chart. I don't have an agenda coming. When you're here, you can tell me what you have in mind, and then we'll throw it into the system. We'll throw it in the hat. But then when I come to muscle test you, it's what your body tells me. And we go to wherever your body takes us. It could be just the same thing as you came in for, or your body could decide that, no, we're going to deal with your organs first, and we're going to chip off that layer before we go into your memory. It depends on what you need. So coming to see me would involve will involve body talk for sure, but it could also take you to movement. Maybe there is trauma lodged inside your body that needs to be dealt with. Because if you can imagine, if you're in a lot of pain, you don't want to fucking talk about things that happened 50 years ago. No, you don't. You want to get rid of this pain. So it could involve movement for trauma release. It could involve the soul work that we talked about, ancestral wounds, past lives. Or it could be right in the here and now. Maybe it's your meridians that stuck. And maybe it's another modality that I do is story work. Maybe it's the shit stories that you tell yourself that you don't know you're telling yourself. That's driving the script of your life. So it really depends on, the flavor of the day that you bring in, and I just go along with it. I'm just a facilitator. Like we often tell people, and you do too, that, hey, we're not healers. You're the healer. We're here to help you. We're here to guide you. That's what we're trained in. We're trained to be like a tour guide. But what you want, I'm just here to pull it out of you, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So powerful. So I think that you said that you had did you have like a mini session or something that you wanted to share with everybody?
I do. I have this, so I have this session that I was going to do with myself that, so another thing I want to talk about is emotional hygiene. I really like that word because of the fact that it's very Western and it's not woo at all. You brush your teeth twice a day, that's hygiene, right? And to me, whether it's meditation or sitting with yourself or tapping to straighten out your meridians or some breath work, that's hygiene, and that's just as important as brushing your teeth. So this is what I was going to do for myself when I thought about that heaviness of beginnings came into my heart. And I decided to, why don't I wait until we do the live and we'll do this together?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
It's a camera. All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So this is going to involve, right, different points. And this is straight from EFT. We're not doing the body talk tapping.
Okay.
So EFT, also called tapping, it is centered around your meridians, which is in traditional Chinese medicine. Sometimes our meridians get stuck and it's not flowing right, and it carries all your energies, whether it's like your physical health or your emotional health or your mental clarity. So going through these points is going to help you just get your meridians in line and clean out your channels, and so that everything's flowing clearly.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay. So we're going to go right from the script that I found, and we're going to tap in on the crown point. This is connecting to the divine. And we're going to say, I bring in light.
I bring in light
Into all the branches of my tree.
into all the branches of my tree,
to the deepest roots of this problem,
to the deepest roots of this problem,
and ask for healing for the highest good.
and ask for healing for the highest good.
Cool. And then now we're going to go to the karate chop point, which is right here. And what we're talking about today is beginnings and leaving people behind, maybe leaving a tribe behind, or even just a perception of that. I release the problem.
I release the problem
To the higher power.
to the higher power,
To transform it and my relationship to it.
to transform it and my relationship to it,
Never to take it back.
never to take it back
Or passively receive it back.
or passively receive it back.
And now we're going to go to the heart, and instead of tapping, we're going to rub down to the left and up to the right. I love and accept myself.
I love and accept myself
Unconditionally,
unconditionally,
even though I have these doubts.
even though I have these doubts.
Now we're going to go to the eyebrow, which is your bladder, meridian. I release all the sadness.
I release all the sadness
In all the branches of my tree.
in all the branches of my tree,
To the deepest roots around this issue.
to the deepest roots around this issue.
Cool. All right. Now we're going to go under the eye, which is the stomach meridian. And we're going to say, I release all the fear.
I release all the fear
In all the branches.
in all the branches
To the deepest roots.
to the deepest roots
Around new beginnings.
around new beginnings
And having left my loved ones behind.
and having left my loved ones behind.
Under the nose and chin at the same time, this is the governor vessel. I release all the embarrassment.
I release all the embarrassment,
Uncertainty.
uncertainty
In all the branches.
in all the branches
Of my being.
of my being
To the deepest roots.
to the deepest roots
Around my beginnings.
around my beginnings.
In the collarbone, this is our kidney 27. I release all the hurt.
I release all the hurt
And all the grief.
and all the grief
That I might have caused myself.
that I might have caused myself,
And all the confusion.
and all the confusion
That I might have caused my family.
that I might have caused my family
When I decided to do something new.
when I decided to do something new.
And under the arm. So this is about a hand and then a couple fingers down. And this is your spleen meridian. I release all the guilt.
I release all the guilt
And all my being.
all my being
To the deepest roots around this issue.
to the deepest roots around this issue.
We got a couple more. So now we're going to go with your little finger. So they say when you tap and you feel the bone, that's when it's like the most powerful. So I release all the anger.
I release all the anger,
And all the frustration.
all the frustration
That I have felt.
that I have felt
In me trying to get my way.
in me trying to say what?
Get my way.
In me trying to get my way.
Sometimes I purposely did not consult my family.
Sometimes I purposely did not consult my family.
And even if they have forgiven me,
And even if they have forgiven me,
I choose to forgive myself now.
I choose to forgive myself now.
And this is the last one. I release all the trauma.
I release all the trauma
From these thoughts in my head.
from these thoughts in my head
To the deepest roots.
to the deepest roots
Around this issue.
around this issue.
Oh, this is a good one. Can't skip this one. So this is the large intestine, which is the index finger.
Mhm.
And this is about letting that shit go because it's the large intestine. Literally.
Yep.
I forgive myself totally and completely.
I forgive myself totally and completely.
And I intend to forgive everyone else involved.
And I intend to forgive everyone else involved.
I ask for the wisdom to see that everyone involved.
I ask for the wisdom to see that everyone involved
was acting from a place of unmet needs.
was acting from the place of unmet needs.
And we'll finish off, flush it off with a collarbone. And take a deep breath. And that's it. Thank you for that. I've been like waiting to do this with
I
everyone.
love that. I love that protocol too.
Cool. This is
Wow.
from Dr. Stone.
It's from Dr. Stone?
Yeah, it's from one of her proficiency calls.
I am going to have to keep that. Get that one from you, I mean. Also, oh my gosh. That was amazing. Thank you. So, all right. Well, this has been an amazing talk today. We've covered so many different areas and definitely went past your initial 20-minute parameter.
So Pals and I met in 2019 in Denver. Was that your first body talk?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That was my first one too.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was, that was my first one. And I, one second, sorry. Somebody is messaging me because we're supposed to have a meeting.
Are we running over?
And it was my first body talk, but when I went, I was still so sick. And I was having trouble at that point. Like, my brain would run out of glucose, like flat out, like run out of glucose. And I was seeing my Chinese medicine doctor, and we were doing all sorts of medicine
over lunch. Yeah.
But at that point, we hadn't figured that thing out. And just attending those sessions, I didn't remember half of it because I was like present for the first quarter, and then the rest of the day running out of the glucose and having no energetic boundaries for other people's energy and being in a city. I would get home at the end of the day and I felt like I was just like melting. I was so tired. It was so hard, but I knew it was also so important. And it was about a year later that I finally decided to start working with Elsa.
Awesome. It's like drinking from the fire hose. It's a lot.
Yes, it was. It was quite, it's a lot. And all the different things that I've been exposed to since then, all the knowledge that I'm gaining, all the people that I talk to, the new language that I have around myself and around these things, to be able to have these kind of conversations with you today, it goes back to body talk, and it goes back to,
oh, that's so endearing,
having this language, this new perspective of all of these things. And I don't know, it's so powerful.
I'm so glad that we opened that door.
Yeah, I know. I'm so excited to see where you and I are going to go together with this, because I know we're talking about possible, co-creation, how we can do group work, how we can work together. I'm so excited to see where you go with this, taking this to the next level in the virtual space and really putting yourself out there and going live, because you're amazing. But we'll go live together again next week. We will go live together again next week.
My spiritual sister.
Yeah, you are my spiritual sister. It's been amazing. Well, I think that now would probably be a good time to wrap up and kind of move into the next part of our day. And like the good YouTube stars that we are, as you can see below, like, share, comment below, connect with us here.
I should bring my son's not here, but he'll be like, comment below, mama. Comment
See, he can be your little stand-in. Like, here he comes right at the end.
Yeah, at the end.
Yep. And so people can find us in the Conscious Leadership Network, and you guys can see the address down there, community.consciousleadershipnetwork.org. And where else can people find you, Jackie?
On my website, jackies-ow.com.
Okay, let me put this in the comments so people can see. Let's see. JAQI-AU.com, right? Yep.
That's right.
There we go. So people can reach you there, and we'll be sure to add it into the comments on our YouTube channel and see where we go next. Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll go ahead and end for today. And we'll come back. We'll see you guys in a week.